I've been writing my LinkedIn posts days or even weeks in advance to have them then later posted at a future date, all automatically, and you can do the same thing without the need to code. Let me show you how. My name's Paul, and my goal is to make automating the day-to-day easier for you. In today's time, automation is not just a key to excelling your own learnings, but it's an important skill to wield if you want to grow any business. And the beauty is you really don't need to know how to program or write code to do almost anything you want, really. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through how to set up automated posts on your LinkedIn from a central table of premeditated entries on a Notion page, and we're going to be using my favorite no-code workflow automation tool called N8N, and it's spelled N8N. I know it's a little weird, but it's pronounced Nathan, I guess. If you haven't heard of N8N, well, it's sort of like Zapier, where you can reach for hundreds of the common apps and APIs that you might use on an everyday basis and string them together using no-code, visual, drag-and-drop interface. And the best part is, I think it's a little bit better than Zapier because you can host this thing for free. That's right, you can run it on your own computer and create limitlessly without any fees. In this video, we're going to be focusing on the nuts and bolts about how to build this automation from the ground up, but leave a comment if you're interested on seeing and learning more about that self-hosting and running N8N yourself. What is a workflow, you might ask? Well, it's just a set of steps that run in a particular order every single time. In our case, we're going to want to run some steps every single day to check our list of available LinkedIn posts. And if we see any of them match today, we're going to want to feed them through an AI formatter to make them look really pretty and then shoot them out to our LinkedIn. And at least for me, one of the best parts about building your workflows in this graphical way is you can always come back and look at it. I mean, here we have the entire workflow of how we're going to post on LinkedIn automatically and format using OpenAI, and we can just look at it, and that's beautiful. But we're not here just to look at something that's already created. I'm going to walk you through how we're actually going to build this thing, so let's get cracking. Once we're in the N8N editor making a new workflow, the first thing we need to do is add our first step, or our trigger. The very first thing that kicks off a workflow is called a trigger. So let's click on this plus button, and what we want to do, like we mentioned, is every single day check for something. So our trigger is a schedule. We're going to click on a schedule, and some options pop up here where we can choose the interval, the days between the interval, and any sort of offsets. We do want to run this every day, so I'm going to have days as the interval, and we're going to trigger at our 3 p.m. I want this to run at 3 p.m. every day. On these node configuration screens, you can always see this orange button in the upper right called test step, and this will do exactly what it says. It's going to test this node, and we can see what it's going to output. What happens next after the schedule? Well, we want to go reach out to Notion, our base repository of posts. So let's go head over there and see how we set that up. This is what the Notion is going to look like for storing your posts, and it's really just a table with some names, a status, and a date. I added the tags as an extra thing. It doesn't really have anything to do with this. But this is mine. Let's go create a new one because it just takes a sec. I'm going to click up here in the upper left to create a new page, and we can call this LinkedIn Post Example. Next, we want a table, or as we're about to see in the Notion APIs, it's called a database. We want a table or database to pull our post from. So I'm going to go down here and click a table where we can then add a name and some other columns. If you remember, we also need a status column and a date column. So I'm going to click on this plus and let's click on status. Awesome. Let's do it one more time and click on date. The cool thing about dates in Notion is you can click on the empty cell here and this nice calendar pops up, so I can click any date easily and it just autofills for me. Let's try making an example post. I'm going to give it a name, and you can see if we hover over it, this open button comes. So I can click on open and we can start writing. This is an example post for a video showing folks how to automate their LinkedIn posts without coding. Also, look at this cat. And we're going to copy and paste a picture. So I'm going to Google search for cat. This guy looks pretty good. Copy image. Let's head back over to Notion. I'm just going to Command V or Control C if you're on a Windows. And that is a big cat, but there we go. Looks good. So let's cancel out of this and let's set the date for today. It's June 4th. Awesome. Okay, so we have an example post on our example Notion database. Let's head back over to N8N and we can start automating. So after the schedule runs, let's click on this plus to tell it what to do next. Our Node Explorer is going to pop up on the right, and I can search for Notion. Like I mentioned, the table thingies are called databases, and our table database thing is on a page called LinkedIn example posts, right? So we want to get a database page. I can see that operation right here. I'm going to click on it and it wires up. The first thing we want to configure on this node configuration screen is the credential to connect with. This is how we actually hook into our personal data on Notion. Clicking on the dropdown, you can see we don't have a credential, and this is one of the strengths of N8N is it already understands all the different OAuth or integration methods that these different services use, so you don't have to figure it out and go read the docs. That's awesome, because all I really need to do is click on create new credential, and it tells me what I need. I need one value, which is my integration secret. So let's go find that. I'm going to open a new Google search for Notion developers, and it's probably going to be the first link right here. Yeah, the Notion API. So we're going to click on that, and let's click in the upper right to view my integrations. I already have an integration made, but let's whip up another one because it just takes a sec. I'm going to give it a name of example integration. We don't really need a logo, and let's click submit. And there we go. We got our integration secret. Awesome. I'm going to head back over here, paste that in, click save, and I hope we see green. Awesome. So that means the connection succeeded and we should be able to request our stuff from Notion. All right, moving on, we do want to get a database page. We don't want to create a page. We want to get all the database pages. So let's select them from a list. And right here, N8N is actually going to request to Notion using the credential we just created and tell us what database pages we have available. And we have none. Okay, now why is that? Let's head back over to our integration and see what's happening. Oddly enough, the integration already has the capabilities to read, update, and insert content, so why can't it find our new database table? Let's head back over to Notion, and on our page, our database page, we can go into the upper right for these ellipses and connect to, and this is where we can probably find our new, there it is, example integration. So you can click on that, click confirm, and now let's head back over to N8N and see if it can find it. On these node configuration screens, if you want to reset the options that are available, hover to these vertical ellipses on the configuration and you can do refresh list. So let's now click on select a database and awesome, LinkedIn post example popped up. Just like with the schedule node, we can reach to the upper right and test step and see if it works. And voila, look, we got 3 entries, but we only had 1. Why is it giving us 3? Looking back at our LinkedIn example, you can see we actually have 3 rows here. They all say not started, and we only have 1 with an actual post. In fact, we only have 1 with a date, which is today, and we can use that to our advantage when we start scheduling out more posts in the future, like so. How do we do that? How do we filter by a date? Conveniently enough, Notion already has a filter section broken out, and you're going to find that a lot of the integrations have this feature where it's already going to exist what you need. So for the filter, we're going to build a filter, and we want to match where the date is equal to something. And what is that something going to be? Well, it's going to be this date coming in on the left. On the node configuration screens, on the right, we have the output data, but on the left, you have the input data from the previous node, and we can use that to our example to actually set the date. We can set a fixed date, as you can see right here with the fixed annotation, but we want an expression so we can dynamically construct the date based on the schedule trigger. I'm going to put some double curly braces in here so we can write some JavaScript to actually populate this field. I'm going to use the keyword of today, and we're going to format that in a particular way so that it matches how we're writing the dates on Notion, which is year/month/day. Okay, so we have this date filter in there. Let's test step again. And beautiful, now we only get 1 row, which does match the 1 entry we have here that matches today, June 4th. Great, so I can click on the upper border here to exit out of this node, and now we're going to want to move on to, since we got the actual database page, which is this page entry, we want to open it up and then access all the different pieces. There is a text paragraph right here, there is a text paragraph right here, and then there's an image. So these are the different content blocks. We have to request each content block, assemble it into one string, and then push it out to the next step. So let's get onto that. Conveniently enough, if we click on this plus button and search for Notion, N8N already has a node for getting all the child blocks on a page. So we can click that and then use this input data on the left to figure out which page to request all the content for. We can use the credential that we just created, and we want to get resource block, and we want all the child blocks. What URL do we request? Well, if we look on the input data, we can see that the URL is coming in right here. So we can just hover over, click and drag it into this field, and let's make sure to select return all. If we hover over this, whether to return all the results, yeah, we do want all the content. So now that we have the URL of today's post, let's click test step. And here are 3 items that correspond to the first paragraph up here, the second paragraph, and the cat picture. taking a quick look at the output data, the things we really care about are the content, if there is some text, and if there's an image, you can see it gives us a file tag with a URL, which we're about to use to go get that image. The output has 3 items, which means that if we exit out of this, these 3 items are going to cause this next plus to run 3 different times, but we don't want that. We want all this content to be condensed into one thing that we can then do something special with. So for aggregating those items, we can use the conveniently named aggregate node. And this is where we can input the fields to say what we want to scan for as those inputs come in before we give the final output. If we remember back here on the left to the previous node, we have content, and if there's any image.file.url text, we want to pull that out too. So on the right, I'm going to go back to aggregate. And for the first thing, let's type in content. That's the first field. And then we want, I think it was image.file.url. Okay, so if we then test this step, it's going to run over all 3. And we got 2 contents and 1 URL picked up from our scan. And as we want, 1 item in the output that we can do something with. Awesome. Just to keep things tidy, I want to wrap this section up with a sticky note that says this is where we're fetching things from the Notion database. All right, so taking a look at this aggregate node, we have some content that we're going to want to format into a post, and we have an image for which we want to go grab the image from the internet. We can start this out by clicking the plus and making an HTTP request to whatever file URL just came in. So I'm going to drag this down here and let's look at, there it is, URL 0. So what do we want to request? Well, let's click and drag similarly to the last step. We can click and drag this URL. And there's no authentication. So if we test step, we get some data and it can detect that it is a PNG. And what if we click view? There it is. Awesome. That's good for the image, but now we need to do something with the text and make it actually look good before we send it out to LinkedIn and combine it with the image. So I can go to this node right here from aggregate and click and drag another arrow of egress for the data. And I'm going to click on Advanced AI because we want to use GPT this time. I'm going to click on OpenAI and let's go to Chat with Assistant. When we open up this node, you're going to notice 2 nodes actually get produced, this chat trigger and the actual OpenAI node. The chat trigger we don't really have anything to do with since it's just like a chat interface, so I'm going to hover over this and delete it and focus on the OpenAI node. When we double click on it, you can see immediately it wants a credential, which we don't have, so I'm going to click on Create New Credential, and this is where we just put in that API key. Getting your OpenAI API key is quite simple. You just need to go to platform.openai.com/playground, and then you can head over to API keys and get that what you need. I'm going to put my API key in here, click save and hoping for green. Awesome, connection successful. On your OpenAI platform account, everybody has access to very powerful features such as the assistants up here in the upper left. Assistants are just like custom GPTs where you can even insert your own files to let the AI know how, for example, your previous blog posts were written so it can start to attune its writing style to match yours. In any case, my custom assistant here is an expert LinkedIn post formatter specializing in transforming unformatted LinkedIn post drafts into beautifully structured and engaging posts, yada, yada, yada. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about how to optimize and get the most out of this assistance API, also leave a comment and we can make a video in the future. In any case, I'm going to be using this LinkedIn post reviewer in our GPT node right here, and it can do exactly what we kind of just overviewed. So assistant, I'm going to choose from a list, and I'm going to choose my LinkedIn post reviewer, which popped up right here. Awesome. As for the prompt, we don't want to take in from the previous node automatically. I want to define the prompt below and actually tell it to format the data that's coming in. And you guessed it, we are going to want to use all the content blocks right here. So instead of a fixed prompt, I'm going to change it to an expression so that we can use some text and some JavaScript. Thank you kindly for your help. Please refer to the following LinkedIn post and output a reformatted version employing thoroughly thought out paragraph breaks and lists if present. And what I'm going to do is open 3 backticks right here so that it knows it's kind of like a snippet. Inside the snippet, I'm going to open those double curly braces again so we can refer to the JSON input on the left. Specifically, we want to target the content. So I'm going to do .content, and content is a list. It's an array. We have content 0, content 1. It could go on and on. So what we want to do is join all of those elements into one string, and we're going to join it on, let's do a space. Now you can see in the highlighted green, our rendered snippet this is an example post for a video showing folks how to automate their LinkedIn posts without coding. Also, look at this cat. Great, so what happens if we click test step now? What is the GPT going to do? Here's our output you can see in the column. This is an example post for a video showing folks how to automate their LinkedIn posts without coding. And you can see we have \n, and what that's going to be is essentially a new line. So it's actually making a whole line break before it then outputs Also, look, this is a cat. As you can see, none of the base content was changed. It's only formatted to increase the readability and be more engaging. Just to test how we can push this, let's head back over the Notion and change this base digestible post into something a little more convoluted. Okay, so we added a few more sentences. It's just all fluff, but let's head back over to our workflow, cancel out of this, and I want to re-request that database page, run that. Now I want to re-request all those content blocks, pull them together, and now we have an opportunity to seed the AI with this new stuff. So let's click test step. Really curious what it outputs here. Now, in my assistant, I did give the liberty to use a few emojis, and it certainly took that liberty. Excited to share a fresh video on how you can automate LinkedIn posts without any coding. There we got that line break. Automation is game-changing in so many ways. We got a line break, and it seems like here it's inserting a dash. How cool. So it's making a list here, which is going to render out on the LinkedIn posts. Okay, so we turned our blob of text into something that's actually readable, and we have an image getting requested from the internet. Now we need to merge these back together before putting it up on LinkedIn. Conveniently enough, you already guessed it, N8N already has a merge node, which brings together two other nodes. So I'm going to click on merge and cancel out of that because I want to hook in input 1 from this AI and input 2 from the image request. Opening up the settings, there's a few different ways we can merge things, such as appending them into different items, but what we want to do is combine them, and we want to merge by position, so that element 1, which is the image, and element 1 from the other one, which is the formatted text, get pushed together into one step. Let's click test, and here is the merged output. We got all the content. If we click on binary, we can see that file coming through. Awesome. So now we can really do something with this. Last but not least, we want to post it on LinkedIn. So let's click this plus button, search for LinkedIn, and we can then create a post. Similarly to Notion and OpenAI, we need a credential to connect with. Now, this is where things might get a little complicated, but just bear with me for 1 minute and we're going to get this LinkedIn credential set up. When you click on create new credential, you can see there's a few more fields we need to enter, and that's because LinkedIn uses OAuth, which is a specification that sort of tells us like how the server and the client can exchange the user information to do something on their behalf. So what we need to do is we need to head over to LinkedIn Developers, and we need to create this thing called an app. Here we go, LinkedIn Developers Solutions, and in the upper right, we can click on My Apps. Just like with Notion, I already have an example app, but let's walk through creating one. The app name, I'm going to do video example. And now we get to LinkedIn page, and this is where I got a little confused. LinkedIn requires your app, your API access, to be linked to a company. You need to link your app to a company in order for it to go through their approval system. They do have some solutions for independent developers if you yourself want to automate things on your API for your account. And that's called the default company page. So if you don't have a company, you can use their pre-built default company page. You can search out for default company, and this is the one you want, the one that says default company page for API testing. I'm going to click on that. And unlike Notion, LinkedIn does require a logo. So I'm going to upload a logo and we can just take a random screenshot. Sweet. So let's click I've read and agreed to the terms and create that app. Next, you're going to be brought to this page where you have to enter the capabilities that you want to give this new LinkedIn app that you created. You're going to need two things. You're going to need to be able to share on LinkedIn so you can post. Once that's added, you need to be able to sign in with LinkedIn so that you can sign in with OAuth and do something on a user's behalf. Sweet. All right, we're all set up in terms of capabilities and approvals. Last but not least, we need to get those configuration options by going to the auth page, and that's where we can find our client ID and our client secret, which if we go back into N8N, will be posted here in the client ID and the client secret. This OAuth redirect URL is also very important. So I'm going to click to copy, and we can go back over here, and in the OAuth 2.0 settings, we can set the authorized redirect URL for our app. This is a tight security feature that keeps your account secure. So I'll click on this pencil, add a redirect URL, put that in there, and click update. And last but not least, you just need to copy this client ID and client secret into your settings. Alrighty, I got those pasted in. The last thing before you click connect is you want to turn off organization support because we're not managing an organization, we're posting on our behalf. And we want to turn off legacy because we're not contacting the old LinkedIn API, we're using the new one. And these two settings are quite important if you want to post on your own behalf. So now we can connect my account and log into your LinkedIn. All right, I'll click allow. And let's hope that we're brought back to awesome, got connected. The window can be closed. So we can now exit out of this. I'll just click close because it said it was okay. And now we should be able to actually do something on our behalf. We have our LinkedIn credential here. We do want to create a post and we want to post as a person. And the person name is the one who we just authenticated with. And the text is going to be equal to, let's go over to our schema right here. The text is going to be equal to this formatted output. So I'm going to click and drag that in. And we also have an image. So the media category will be set to an image, and the input data field is just going to be data. It's this binary data key right here. Awesome. So what happens if we now click test step? Well, we got a green check, so let's head over to LinkedIn and see if it posted on my behalf. And look at this, we got a nice title with spacing, a list being rendered, and here we have our image with even some AI generated tags at the bottom. I mean, how awesome is that? So I'm just going to clean these up a little bit and create a new sticky note as we did on the left to essentially label this part of the workflow as the format post piece. The cool thing about these stickies is you can also write in markdowns. You can see I put 2 hashtags to make this a heading. Last but not least, after posting, we want to reach back into Notion and update that database table to say that this is status of done. Long and behold, there already is an update database page note. So I'm going to click on that. We do want to connect with the Notion account. We do want to update our database page. And what is the URL going to be? If you recall, on the left, we have the input from the previous node, which in this case is LinkedIn, which didn't really give us anything useful as it pertained to Notion. What we need to do is go in the upper left right here and select the input. Instead of LinkedIn, and we're going to want to get, let's do Notion 6, 5 nodes back, where we actually get the ID, the name, and here it is, the URL of the original post that kicked off this workflow. So we can click on schema, so we're able to click and drag that URL into the database here. And what do we want to update on this database page? Well, we want to update some properties for every row. We want to update this status. So we can go into adding a property to update, and it's going to load the different columns. It automatically detected status, and we can set that status to done. Sweet. Okay, so I want to see the whole shebang now. We have not started. We have some example post. Let's run the workflow from a bird's eye view and see that get updated. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and click this test workflow button. And we're running. OpenAI is generating our post. Our image was requested. And now we're posting on LinkedIn. Okay, everything worked. So I'm going to go back over to my LinkedIn. I deleted the previous post. You can see post removed. Let's see it get posted again. There it is. There's our kitty. I'm going to quickly delete this so nobody sees the travesty. And let's go over to Notion, and lo and behold, it's marked as done. Right before we finish things off, make sure to save. I've made that mistake before, and set inactive to active. And this is going to make sure that the schedule trigger actually kicks off as we set it, which is, as we remember, every day, once a day at 3 p.m. to check if there's any posts with a matching date in our Notion database. And well, that's it, folks. This is how I automate all of my posting on LinkedIn with this little one GUI setup, and you can do the same thing. And as you've probably picked up, the hard part isn't connecting these things. The N8N team has done a great job making it approachable for anybody to wire up the nodes. The harder part, arguably, is understanding, how to make an OAuth client like we did with LinkedIn, and how to parse through some of the data or merge the data as it's coming through. The whole point of this channel is to make it easier for people to approach day-to-day automation without the stumbles and time invested of figuring this all out yourself. So if any of this felt unclear, if you want to double tap or, look into other flavors of automation or ways of building with assistance, please let me know down in the comments and we can dig in as deep as you want to go. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any ideas about things, bots, forums, or other marketing outreach that you'd want to automate yourself, let's talk about it and let's try to build it. Until next time, cheers.